Welcome back to the channel. Today we're discussing the 1991 horror comedy mystery, The People Under the Stairs by Wes Craven. It opened November 1st, 1991 to a opening of $5,522,250. It would go on to earn $24 million domestic, $7 million international for a worldwide total of $31 million against a $6 million budget. Even using a 2.5 times multiplier, the movie still probably doubled its budget, especially after you figure in video releases and things and purchases and things of the like that were more prevalent back then when physical media was still king. But without further ado, folks, let's get into my review of The People Under the Stairs. We've got a review today, and it is a fun one, folks. I just got done watching The People Under the Stairs from 1993. I broke this review down into 5 different parts. We have acting, tone, pacing, characters, and effects. As you can see, I'm reading from notes here, which I wrote. So we'll go to the acting first. And let me introduce to you our major players here in this movie. Now, the principal cast is relatively small, with some ancillary characters sprinkled in along the way. We have Ving Rhames as Leroy, Jeremy Roberts as Spencer, Brandon Adams as Fool, AJ Langer as Alice, Everett McGill as Man, Wendy Roby as Woman, Sean Whalen as Roach, and Kelly Jo Minter as Ruby, who is Fool's older sister. Now, Fool's mother never really has more than 1 or 2 lines in the movie. She's more or less just there. We see her a few times. Fool's grandfather, played by Bill Cobbs, whose name is Grandpa Booker in the movie, he is there basically to provide exposition and an overall veteran presence. So we have our principal cast. Now, let's head off. I've got some notes here I see. And I said, overall, it was solid performances from the major players, with McGill and Roby chewing the scenery at every given opportunity. Be it McGill with his use of inflection when he yells, which he's very expressive with both vocals and facial expressions, body language, and Roby with her exaggerated gesturing, and also, you know, the use of her inflection when she yells or talks, or just her facial expressions. You can really see the shift in the characters' moods in a few scenes, and I appreciate that. These two actually starred together on Twin Peaks. I've never seen the original Twin Peaks series, and I'll probably get some heat for that, but I've never seen it. What the fuck? That brings us to Brandon Adams. Now, Brandon Adams plays Fool. He is our protagonist during this movie's runtime, and Adams is no stranger to the silver screen either, as he himself was in a bunch of movies that we as kids saw. The Sandlot, The Mighty Ducks. He was in Moonwalker with Michael Jackson, and he actually still acts, as he was in The Resort in 2021, Reborn in 2018, Stuck in the Corners in 2014, and a few other projects. And with there being a remake of The People Under the Stairs on the way, which we'll talk about later, one might wonder if Brandon Adams is going to reprise his role as Fool or come back in some capacity, maybe in another role. Really good point I made about Adams in this. He never falls victim to the annoying kid trope during the movie. Some of these movies, you have these child actors. Take Jake Lloyd, for example, in The Phantom Menace. Even though he had acted previously to that, his performance was still that of someone who had never been in front of a camera before, had no idea how to deliver lines. And I'm not faulting a child. I'm not. It's not their fault. That more or less falls on casting and how their lines and acting is coached and directed. But no, Adams was solid as Fool in this performance. Then we have AJ Langer's Alice character. She serves as our secondary protagonist. She is our demure yet resourceful captive who Fool ends up befriending during the runtime of the movie and rescuing during the conclusion. While Alice kind of saves herself in a manner of speaking, and has some help, not just from Fool, but from the Ferals, which we'll talk about them. Not the Pharaohs, they weren't Kangs. That brings us to Ving Rhames' character of Leroy, who is dating Fool's sister Ruby. And he is almost that, I don't want to say surrogate father figure because I don't know how long he and Ruby have been dating, but he is obviously leading Fool down a bad path. Their entire goal here is to break into, McGill and Roby's house to steal these coins so they can pay their rent and get Fool's mother cancer treatment because she's dying, because they can't afford the treatments. Now, I don't need to talk about Ving Rhames' filmography. We're all very familiar with his work. Leroy is a good setup character during this. Giving his acting pedigree, he maximizes his screen time. So he's not in this movie for very long. He dies within the first, I believe it was just under the first hour of the movie. And I remember seeing him die as a kid when I saw this. I was 13. I remember him, it was when it came out. I remember him dying, but I couldn't remember why. The first time, this is no joke, the first time I watched this movie, we didn't have audio on our satellite system. We were going through switching it over because we weren't paying for it. So we had to change over something in the box so we could get things that we had before. And this was on Viewer's Choice pay-per-view. And that was where I watched it with no audio, and I don't think I had subtitles. I'm sitting there and I'm trying to discern what's going on based on just what's happening on the screen, what I can see. And you knew that Ving Rhames wasn't a good guy, wasn't really a bad guy, but was just kind of in that gray area where he was just a hustler. So Ving Rhames turns in another solid performance here and does the movie justice, helps move the plot, and really serves as a developmental aid for the character of Fool in their scenes together and in some of their dialogue, which I appreciate, and that goes back to writing by Wes Craven. Now we'll talk a little bit about our ancillary characters, including Roach, played by Sean Whalen, Fool's sister Ruby, Kelly Jo Minter. They all add to their scenes through veteran skills. I didn't hate any of the characters or actors. I just wish we got slightly more backstory on Mommy and Daddy, McGill and Roby. Their characters were fascinating, not so much in who they were, but how we got here. Because obviously very, very violent, very disgusting people, but it's like, what brought you to this? They use the religious overtones, and that's, they have the hear, see, speak no evil in the house. They make a point to show that. They're praying, they govern Alice with these Old Testament type religious values. So yes, all of the acting in the movie was good. There weren't really any bad performances. I guess the only thing you could really say was some of the ferals were kind of, but I mean, they really didn't do anything other than make noise and move around. And the end of the movie, they have the kind of attack scene where they go after Roby's character of Mommy. The next part of our review will focus on tone. Tonally, the movie was enjoyable. The inclusion of themes regarding gentrification of black neighborhoods, as well as classism and racism, but never once, mind you, this is what I have to look for in a movie now, where I'm looking to see how, if it was included, how it was handled, and this is literally what I wrote. But never once were there heavy-handed or overtly preachy with messaging. We have Master of Horror Wes Craven to thank for that fact, as he wrote and directed the film. The gentrification and classism themes play into the main plot, with Leroy, Spencer, and Fool going to rob Mommy and Daddy's house in search of the gold coins, which they can use to pay their back rent, and get Mama Fool her much-needed cancer treatment. Those themes being included are absolutely fine, because this is all real-world things. There is racism, there is classism. Now, I'm not saying that it's everywhere and not, but there are shitty people like this because Mommy and Daddy are slumlords. And that really plays into this. So, because they're evicting Fool and his family from their building, which when they do show the inside of the building, it is a rundown, absolute shithole filled with stereotypical, ghetto-type drug addict characters, prostitutes, pimp types, that, and just overall ne'er-do-wells. Okay, so tonally, my next point was I went on to say, with the forthcoming remake, I have almost zero faith this new version won't club viewers over the head with social messaging, something its predecessor never did, as I just stated. Much of my trepidation stems from the man spearheading the project, which is Jordan Peele. I did the video on the remake, where I spoke about them hiring a new writer for that, and this has been in development since 2020. So we're 3 years in, almost just probably over 3 years now into this development. They've got writers, and I am terrified to see what this is going to look like. I'm not saying that I'm going to watch it, although I have watched most of Peele's other. I think I've seen all his movies. I just never watched the Twilight Zone that he redid. As somebody pointed out when I said I liked the original version, they're like, well, that was a remake. The Rod Serling was a remake too, so you're wrong.
It doesn't matter what you think.
I like the Rod Serling version. I don't care if that's not the original. That's the original to me because that's the first one I saw. So I'm sorry if my vernacular was incorrect. The phrasing was incorrect. Now we're on to pacing. Pacing, very important in movies. Bad pacing can take a really good movie and make it difficult to watch. The pacing in this movie was never an issue, as we don't ever get stuck in one place too long or overuse establishing shots, which we see a lot of in some movies. As I said in my notes here, by 35 minutes into a 1 hour and 42 minute runtime, they wasted no time on getting to the action. There isn't nonstop thrills the entire length of the movie, but there is more than enough to keep you entertained and interested in this. And even the scenes where you would think, oh, well, nothing's really going on, you want to pay attention to the background, to the things that Fool's going through, the pathways through the walls of the house, the different locations where the entrances are, what they're hidden behind. It's all very cool, and it just adds to the enjoyment of the movie. We're 35 minutes in, and Leroy and Fool's partner in this robbery, Spencer, had went into the house, and they'd lost him. He hadn't come back. So they decided to go in. We're 35 minutes in here, and then from there on out, it's you're in, you've downshifted. You hit that next gear, and it just kept going, which was good. The effects for this one, the effects in this movie hold up extremely well, especially considering they're all practical. Outside of possibly the house explosion at the end, which I don't know if they, built a prefab and blew it up for that scene, or if that was, special effects of some sort CG'd. I don't think it was, though. I think it was practical. But all the violence, the body parts, the blood is practical, and it looks wonderful. The makeup on the Farrells still looks good. It holds up, and I really, really dug their look. You get Sean Whalen's Roach character. All of them have their tongues cut out, and he goes, and he opens his mouth, and you see like the stump of a tongue there. So, no, pacing was good. Effects were solid. The blood, gore, violence, well done. Outside of a few obvious instances, most of the violence is implied. There's not a lot of hardcore bloodshed on screen, but what we do get is fun. Like Spencer's killed off camera. Ving Rhames' character is shot 3 times. You see him getting shot, but there's no blood splatter or anything like that. But you get his body laying there, and then you see him cutting him up, which looked great. And then there's a water pit in the basement that's hidden under a sliding floor that Daddy throws Spencer and Ving Rhames into, and he himself ends up in at the end of the movie. It's time for the moment you've all been waiting for, taking all factors into consideration: acting, tone, pacing, characters, and effects, to come up with our hockey mask rating for this movie. We go on a 1 to 5 scale. I give The People Under the Stairs from 1991 a 4 out of 5 hockey mask rating. I give it this because I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. The characters were fun, they were scary, they were entertaining, and they drew you in, and that's due to the acting. The pacing, everything, the writing, everything just kept me in the movie. So, 4 out of 5 for The People Under the Stairs. Now it's your turn at home. Yes, you, sitting on your mobile device, your computer, your television, to weigh in the comments. Let me know what you think. Am I right? Am I wrong? Am I completely off base with my appraisal of this movie and everything that comprises it that we've went over today? Let me know in the comments. If you're new here, subscribe. If you're a subscriber, thank you. We appreciate you. And if you're a channel member, you are amazing. Thank you so much. You can join too as a channel member, $2.99, $4.99. It's all in the description to the video. Check it out. Do all the YouTube things. I'm Etep, and from the Place to Be Reviews, I've been here with all of you. If I don't see you, have a great day, a pleasant tomorrow, and I will catch you on the next one.
What goes on in that house? The police never took it serious.